So let's take a look at how we can construct shadows in perspective sketching. But first, let's take a look at it from a 2D perspective point and understand some of the mechanics of how to construct and predict how a shadow looks like. It's actually not very difficult. So let's assume we have a rectangle. So that's a wooden cube. And we have somewhere a light source. Now the way how a light works is, technically speaking, it just shoots out light rays into all directions. No? And a shadow is simply an area where the light rays cannot hit something. So something blocks it. And in our case, that, for example, would be the front face of our cube. So you see here I start to draw two lines, which are red. And this vertical front edge actually is what the light source can see. But those other three faces, they're hidden, so they're in shadow. And specifically, for example, those vertical corners in this top view are blocking the light and thus creating actually this shadow area. So for example, what I'm sketching here right now in gray, that's all in light. Okay, so let's undo a few steps. Let's go back to here. So let's say we quickly simplify the shadow. That's actually not really the correct shape, but just for demonstration purpose, that's sufficient. So this is, for example, the way how, for example, a shadow would be. So everything behind the object where the front light source cannot touch the ground because the object itself blocks it, that's where you're going to see a shadow. Okay, so let's go to a side view. There, and let's create our box again, and maybe here's our light source. Okay, so the distance of a light is based on not only where your object is, your light is, but also how high the light is in relationship to your object. So you see here, this would be my shadow triangle. Now if my light source would be here, my shadows actually would be really, really long, actually outside of the page. So all this area here would be in shadow. If my light source would be somewhere here, it would be a pretty small shadow. Okay, so you see that's not really very, very difficult. And let's delete everything here again. And I would like to, just from the side, show this case. And here's our light. Now let's make the light there. So for example, it shoots out a light to there, so we know all this is in shadow, but also from here now through the lower front corner I have to do a line, because now this area here would be the maximum surface of my shadow. Because again, you see that this corner and this corner are blocking my light rays, so rendering all this area being in shadow. So let's create a shadow for this rectangle that actually goes to a vanishing point. So from the vanishing point through this lower edge, I can draw a line, and I do the same here. The next step now, I can define the length of my shadow. So for example, let's say to there. That's good. And then, for example, I could make this line, and there's my other shadow. Okay, so let's do this again, maybe with a much longer shadow. There and there. There you see where my visible shadow actually would be. Okay, so not too difficult. So let's say inside our object we have something maybe like this. Okay, so how do we draw this now? not really complicated. Do the same thing. So from here, line down, and let's decide the shadow, maybe like this, and from there, let's bring this one over and there. So how do we do the rest here? Well, you know, there's my other line, but yeah, how do I stop this one? So that looks a little bit tricky, but it's not really. So check this one out. If I continue this line and I continue this line, see where they cut nearly below my vanishing point. So here's actually my light source in my perspective drawing. Yes, our light normally is in front, but to construct a shadow that goes back, we can utilize this trick. Okay, so from there to there, you see there it cuts, there and there, and then here, that one and that one we can connect. And let's ink actually the visible shadows. There, so there's my shadow. Okay. Really very simple. So let's have a little bit more fun with this object and change it a little bit. So let's say we're going to actually do this, and then this area we remove. So let's say you want to construct something like this. Looks complicated, pretty easy, but we need to do a little bit of prep work first. So I need to have a bottom line and this line down, because I need to have something on the ground. That's really important, because then there I can define my shadow lines there and there. You see that? So I extend this one and extend this one. See there again, they're cut nearly under the vanishing point. So I need to know how far does this one cast a shadow here. So from this lower point to there, bring this one over from there to there. You see there it cuts, so it's actually there. And there is my shadow. Okay, let's do this one more time with maybe another variation. So let's say, yeah, let's do it this way. So we'll bring this one actually down a little bit. So there and there. Bring this one up and maybe there. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. So this shape I would like to cast a shadow for. And it's pretty much the same idea now. Whoa. Bring a line over. Decide your shadow. Can bring this one down. This one should touch somewhere there. Let's see if my drawing is correct. So here to there, if I continue, it should go to the vanishing point, and it does, more or less. So that's good. Here to there, from there to there. So there's a one point, but where's now this point? So what I have to do now, this high point, I have to project down onto my ground plane. From there I go to the vanishing point, and then from there I go to there. So there I have it. So zip, there is my shadow. Unfortunately, some of these lines overlap, so let's do it then this way. So let's see, through there, continuation. Yep, you see, that works. There, there, straight down to the vanishing point, from here to there. Okay, so there, good. Let's put some red on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, this is actually not correct. This one would go to there. So I would only see this part of my shadow. Yeah. No, wait. This one line in the back is missing. There. Okay, see, that's pretty simple. And this technique basically assumes that the shadow casting light source is actually your sun. So if you want to have a shadow that comes towards you, so it doesn't go to the vanishing point, we have to pretty much use the same technique, a little bit different. So, for example, I'm going to create this line, and whoa, this has to be much longer and much longer. And let's say, well, maybe here, yeah, can bring this one over there. Oops. Okay. So problem now is not where's my sun. So my light object is actually going to be somewhere up there. So accidentally I zoomed out, but that's fine because you see that my object is way outside of my page. So I have to be quite careful now, but this technique still works pretty well. And again, keep in mind that the shadows should look correct. If they're a little bit off, not a big deal, as long as that just doesn't jump into your face. So I know somewhere here might connect, so from there I simply eyeball this a little bit down. Here I need to bring this line down as well, bring it to there, and then from here coming down through there, find this point. You see there I have all those connection lines. Okay, so let's maybe create a new outline for my shadow. There, see, there it is. Now, obviously, again, shadows are there to maybe secure your drawing on the canvas a little bit. So that means you want to have the shadow not necessarily, like in this case, in front of your object, but behind your object, because it just is there to secure, to ground your object. So this approach obviously works as well. You saw my light was on top. But most times you want to have your shadows going to the side or to the back. And in the next session of videos, I'm going to show you now how we could cast a shadow actually with a point light, which we can move around our object. Okay, so let's try this one out on a cube. Before I do this, however, what I would like to achieve is, let's say this is my side view. Here is my object, and I would like to have a light source maybe up here. So you can see, for example, how high and maybe how far the red line is. Okay, so something like this, I would like to transfer now into my perspective drawing. So I'm going to start actually with the ground line there and there, and for example then shoot at a line from the vanishing point through my diagonals. So I found the midpoint, and probably the distance is more maybe something like this. Okay, Good. And then from there I can draw a straight line up. Now I have to figure out maybe the correct height. So here again I do my diagonals, I do straight line up because I find the midpoint. Here I make a straight line up, and then from this corner through the midpoint, there I find another line. So you see there I have now multiplied actually the height 2 times. And now maybe we can eyeball this a little bit. So probably the light source will be maybe something like there. Okay. Well, and you see again, it's the same method, diagonals to find midpoints, or then a vertical. So you can multiply a height or foreshorten it. It's always the same trick and method. And again, here you see my construction planes. Okay. So, having this done, I'm going to lower the transparency a little bit so we still see it. Because what I have to do now is actually create my correct shadows. And I'm going to introduce you to the idea of shadow triangles. And I'm going to work with my first corner here. So, the way how this works is from the light source, make a line down onto the ground. That's the reason why I needed this point on my ground. And then there you can draw a line till it touches, for example, this corner. So kind of like I'm drawing a line here. And then from your light source through this corner, we draw a line there. Let's remove this one. Okay. So this is actually this length, so this one. That's actually the shadow that's casted by this hard edge. Okay. So let's do this one more time. So I go through the back corner point, and then from here down through this, there. And there you can see now that actually this distance is created by this edge. Okay. Now with these two lines cut each other, there actually we can draw a line through, and this edge, which I just put down, is actually casted by this harder edge. Because again, this whole face here does not get any light, doesn't cast a shadow. What actually really casts a shadow are those edges I'm highlighting here right now with red. Yeah. Okay. We'll maybe make those a little bit thicker. There. So this is really only what's going to cast a shadow in our case. Perfect. Okay. So let's continue this. From here to there, it's probably only that long. Whoa, it's pretty close. So there, and there, and there. Okay. Can connect the line and can connect the line. There's actually now my shadow. So I'm going to put these lines down, and then let's hide actually this layer, and there you can see actually where my shadow shape is. So I'm going to create a new layer. Let's turn this one off. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's good. So I'm just putting some strokes down. And let's use the eraser tool. So this is, for example, the front edge. Here is the back edge. Here is this edge. And there. So everything what you see there right now, that's kind of like the shadow. However, because my object is also there, this part of my shadow I don't really see. So I can remove it. So essentially, this what's left over, that's only the part of my shadow. And that's, for example, how we can construct the shadow of a box when the light source is in front of it. So you see, that wasn't really too difficult. Let's do this one more time. And actually this time now I would like to cast a shadow towards me. And that actually shows you a particular problem. So, same thing, diagonals. From here, go down. Actually, no, in this case, I only need it maybe till there. So, there, for example, up. Oh, actually, I don't need to find my diagonals. So that's perfect. Zip. There. So maybe there, here, line up. So from this point, a line over and where it cuts my midpoint. That's kind of like now where, for example, my height would be for my light source, 1 time, 2 times, and then a quarter. So let's mark it. That's where my light source would be. Okay. That's not really correct. Because I jumped the gun. Because I have to now figure out actually the depth. So from here, whoa, just draw a line through there. And now I can figure out kind of like the depth. I'm going to make it a little bit closer to my object so I get a shorter shadow. So it's one rule. The more the light is away, the longer the shadow. The closer the light, the shorter the shadow. And obviously the higher the light, the shorter the shadow, and the lower the light, the longer the shadow. So, you know what? Actually, let's do this. I'm going to, on purpose, put this a lot higher. So maybe light source up there. So you can see now, maybe there and there. And I start actually with this new point first. Okay, let's make this a little bit less visible. Okay, so from there, a line, and then from there, triangle through there, there it cuts. And again, from there, there, cuts. One more time. There, from there, down, and there. There, and somewhere there. Yeah, okay, good. And then connection, connection, and connection. There you see now how the shadow comes towards you. And in case we would like to shade it a little bit, then kind of like the shadow would be somewhat in this area here. Okay, well, so good. Let's hide this actually. Let's make a new layer. And I'm going to do the same now with the light source that's a little bit lower. You know what? Let's also make this light source even a tick more lower. Okay, perfect. So again, same thing, same base, but then the height starting point is different. And maybe you start noticing already how actually these lines I have to draw are much longer now. So here the shadow will be problematic because it's way above the cone of vision. So it might be somewhere there, I don't know. I can't really predict it correctly. But there you see now where it actually should be. Let's quickly put in some marker stuff. I would like to rotate this one. Yeah. So let's shade it quickly. Okay. Let's clean this up a little bit. So the length is not 100% correct, because it's actually out of my page. But you start seeing like how big the shadow is here compared to there. And that's just simply because the light sources are different. Okay. So in the next case, I would like to show you how we can cast a shadow for an object that is above the ground plane. So you see here, I just cut this object smaller and remove the lower part. And you see actually that I have a ground plane on the bottom. So this plane is really important because it specifies actually how far this object is floating above the ground, and it gives me the outline of this box projected down onto the ground. So let's do the same here again. So on this ground plane, I'm creating my diagonals and I am creating a line through there. Okay. And let's create this one nicely and high. Okay, so let's go to here and let's start our shadow construction. So from here now, you see I go through this one point here, and then from my light source through this lower blue edge down to there, and maybe let's do the same there and there. And look at there, we have our first edge. So that edge I actually just drew. So this one is casted by this edge. Now I need to figure out where are those two vertical edges here. Okay, that's going to be very easy. So on the same ray, I'm continuing a line from there through this corner point down. And same here from there down to there. And what I have now is that this and this is actually there and there. See that? Perfect. Okay. Now I need to figure out where's this edge and this edge and this edge, because essentially you see when I'm inking here right now, those are my 6 edges that are casting a shadow. So I need to have a shadow that has also 6 edges. Okay. So from here, I draw a line through the far back gray corner, and then from there down to the top corner only. And that's simply because I can ignore the lower one, because the light doesn't hit it. But here I needed the lower one because my light source can illuminate this whole front face. But in my top view, it can only illuminate the top face and not really the side faces. So that's the reason why I can ignore this one lower corner point. Okay. And then let's do the same there. And let's go down from there to there. And there we have it. So let's make another layer. There, 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 there. So that's my shadow actually of the object. Can put down some shading if we want to. So that would be kind of like my drop shadow. And what's characteristic for a box that's floating is that you have those lines there as well, and you have this front edge. In my previous video, you didn't really see this front edge because simply this blue line was overlapping with this one. But essentially, that's the same. Now, and of course, if we are a little bit more correct, now we wouldn't really see this part of my drop shadow. Also meaning here, this line we wouldn't really see. there. Okay. So let's make this a little bit more interesting again. We're going to add a small extrusion to the back. So what I really have to work with, and also with shadow construction, that can be very complicated because they have to be geometrically precise. But then again, try to make things as logical as possible. So break your steps down into smaller problems. So I first create my shadow for, let's say, my big cube and then my smaller cube. Okay, so there is, for example, my light, and you see also here I have my ground plane. That's important for me to work with. Here, nope, there, I need this line there. Okay, perfect, good. Light source is somewhere up there. So let's start creating our shadows actually for my my bigger box there, and there, and there I have it. So for example there, this is actually going to be a really short shadow. So, and then I need a line here, and I go down to there. The reason why I did this edge is simply so I can connect this line to this line. So I understand, I know actually how I have to construct this edge. Because this edge is actually casted by this small thing over there. See that? So this one is casting this line. This edge is casting this edge. So going to make another layer. Now I have to work on the back part. And it's pretty much the same deal here. So from this point, a line through there. That's actually on the ray, so that's good. And down to there. Perfect. Then from here to there, from there through this point, down, can connect those, and there I have it. So for example there we have this part going down there and there. Okay. So let's see what we have. And yeah, there's actually our shadow. Currently, the way how I positioned my light, technically speaking, this part of my face is going to be illuminated because the light is right on the half mark. And you see actually that this small triangle here, that would be the shadow on the object. Obviously we don't really see it, so I'm not going to shade it. So that, for example, would be my shadow. Because again, let's mark those. This edge is this edge. This edge is this edge. And then this one is this part here. Because it essentially connects to there and there. See, that's one continuous line. But it's behind, so we don't see it. Let's take a look at something like this, where we also have a little bit of this lower part. This looks again complicated, but the trick is try to break everything down into smaller elements. So from this base, I'm going to draw a line. Here's my top of my light, a line down. There I have it, so that's good. And then actually from here, I draw a line down. No, I don't really know, well, how long is actually this thing. So here's a little trick now. So what I'm going to do is I'm extending this line down till it touches my blue line. And then there I understand how long actually this piece has to be. So you see these two red lines I just drew are actually this one there, and then this one is the vertical. See? Very easy. Okay. Now I need to know how long is this piece. Well, again, let's say we go from there over and down. Okay. So now I need to know, well, where's that piece here? So how can I draw this line? Which angle? And this point here where my cursor is, at that point, from there I shoot a line through. As well there, and for example then here, this and this I can connect. Okay. So let's take a look at the back. So hold on, actually before I do this, let's draw this one out a little bit more there. Okay, so that's currently a little bit of the shadow we have. See, the light is really high, so the shadow is going to be rather small. Okay. So I would like to know the length. So here, a little trick, simply a line down. Oh, okay, that's on the same ray. Perfect, so zip. And then there I can connect this. And then there, I know that's kind of like how long the part is. And probably because this piece is really long, the shadow will go a little bit further back. So I'm going to make two more lines. So for example, through this point until it hits my gray line. And I use the gray line again because this one down, you see that rests on my gray line there. And then from here through this corner point, from there, this blue point there, and then this I can connect. Okay, and then zip and zip. There's my shadow outline. Okay. However, there's also probably going to be a shadow on my object. Obviously. So I created another layer, and there will be somewhere a shadow on this part, and I have to figure that out where it is. So what I can do now is from here draw a line through this blue edge point until it hits that blue line. Because if I go down, it should nearly line up there. There, and now I need to figure out how does it go back. So again, little trick. So this line, for example, I extend. So it would be like this, and from here down. There's, you know, there's actually my line. Okay. And if I ink this there, this area would be in shadow. Okay, so if I cross-hatch my shadows, different technique. But if you pick one direction and one spacing, try to be persistent so it's nice and even. And then properly, that will be part of my shadow, I think. Yeah, the rest we don't really see. Again, you know, there would also be a shadow, but that's actually blocked by the blue cube. So let's see maybe how we can render this one with a light source that is actually kind of like not in front of it, but more to the side. So that, for example, could work as well. So going maybe at this point and draw a nice horizontal line there and there. Okay, and let's go up. Okay, so shadow triangles. Number one there and there. Okay. So I have to go down till I hit this point. Okay, now I know where it is. So there, through there, from there down, this point, and there. So this edge is this edge, and this line is this line. Okay. Now I need to figure out where is actually this edge. So going down, and from here maybe to there. So that's where it would start. And then from here through this point, from there down to there, connecting this. So here this line is this edge is actually this edge. Okay. Now I need to figure out where is this part. If I go down, this would actually be on the gray line. So that means I can do it somewhat this way. So there, this line comes from here down there. That one, this actually would be here. So this line is actually this line. And now I need to figure out where is actually my last line. I don't really have currently an idea where that is. That's actually there. So from here through this point, and then from there down. So, oh, it's actually there. Okay, so this long line is casted by this one. Okay, so let's make this a little bit less visible, and then let's sketch in our shadow we have. So there, would be kind of like the shadow you see. And I made a little mistake. This line actually can't be correct, because and I think actually I made a small geometrical mistake. So this is my lower edge. So if this line goes down, oh yeah, it's slightly off the grid, so not the midline. So what I did there actually was not really correct. So from here through there, zip. So there, that actually would be my shadow. So it has to be there. Wah, wah. Thought so, like that perspectively can't really be true. Okay, and again, a little bit of hatching. Maybe this time here I go just vertical straight down. Okay, so something here I didn't like, and that was simply the fact that at one point there it started to look kind of terrible. So there, completely do this by hand once, and then there. Yeah, this looks a little bit better. Okay. So, but how do you now create a shadow for something where actually the edge is curved? Well, you know, that looks tricky, but it is actually pretty easy. So let's assume our shadow actually comes maybe towards us. So I put it to the back. So here again, I make my construction diagonals there. Okay. And I'm putting the light source really close to the object. Okay. Good. Now you want maybe a little bit more there, maybe there. So let's get started. So this edge is going to be pretty easy. So it's just this line, and from here through there, this line. And let's clean this one up a little bit. So maybe like there. Okay, let's go to the other side. So from here through there and there, creating a shadow that's slightly distorted because this is outside the cone of vision already, but that's okay. Will work. Okay, so that's number one, and I need this one here. Ooh, you going down to there. So there's this part. So now I have this back edge, I have this edge, I have this front edge. But how do I deal now with this arced surface? And again, break it down to small logical parts. So what I'm going to do is simply, I'm trying to see, well, where maybe could I put down 3 points, and then I get kind of like 3 triangles, and then I can sketch an arc through it. Yeah. Okay, so ground plane and top plane. Number one, ground plane. You see I draw through where this vertical line touches the lower curve and where it touches the upper curve. And this one is too short. There. One more time. No. This is going to be long. There. And there. And you see that 1, 2, 3. So, and now I can use a pen. And, for example, draw my line through it. Maybe like this, a little bit shaky. But basically, there we see with 5 points, then I can accurately kind of like predict how this as a shadow should look like. And then if we would try to shade this one now, then probably the shadow actually would look kind of like this. Let's go to there. Maybe I'm going horizontal, yeah, okay. And eraser. So this area we don't really see, and obviously all this we don't really see, and this. And here then this comes away. And there. And there. And then the rest we can remove. Okay, you see? So that's then, for example, how you can deal with curved surfaces. So let's say you would like to draw something like this, getting a shadow to the back. So let's see how we can find maybe the midpoint. So let's put these lines down there and there, there, and there, and there, and there's my midpoint. Okay, so now my light source is perfectly centered in front of my object. And again, the thing I really would like to focus on to draw is actually kind of like this shape. There. Okay. So the easiest things will be this line, and obviously this lower line with this point. So let's get started. So from here through there, a line, from there to this point, a line, and yeah, well, no, more or less it will stop there. Okay, so how do I figure out now how it arcs? So again, I have to add some extra points into my drawing. So for example, something there, something there. Let's try this time just 2 lines. There, and there, and there, and there. And interestingly, you start seeing that most of the shadow we might not even see actually in this current view, which is kind of funny. So because it literally would kind of like be there, so you see most of this we don't really see, but we can see this small part here. So this is actually another nice demo to maybe show what happens when we construct the light a little bit lower. So in my next drawing, I put the light simply to here. So hide this, there. Okay, because I needed that line. And hold on, I also need my verticals here, there, and there. So I'm replicating exactly my drawing. Okay, good, perfect. So let's do this again. Easy peasy, doesn't really do much anyway. So there, and there, and there, and there, and there you already see now the shadow comes out much further. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we this probably will look something like this. No, it's kind of tricky to draw this when actually you can't really see where you're drawing because my hand is in my view. Wah, wah. So I have to actually move my position so I can better look at it. Or maybe it's something like this. So there you can kind of like see more of this shadow. And here, one last exercise. Now I would like the shadow to go more towards this direction. So you see actually that I moved my light down this direction. And yep, so let's get started. Again, there, 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 and there, and then number 1, number 2, and number 3. This all sticks, and whoa, this case we hardly even see any of our light because our shadow more or less is actually there. So this is kind of like the only part of my shadow I'm going to really see from this drawing. Okay.